Journey to the Cross, Day 32. On the journey to the cross, not only is the heart of Jesus exposed, but our hearts are too. I must admit, I like uncomfortable comedy, like The Office. I like those cringe-worthy moments when you almost have to turn away because you can't believe what the person is about to say or do next. I think this is honest comedy. We all experience those tense, awkward moments in our daily lives. We all find ourselves in embarrassing situations where we would love to roll back the cameras and be granted a retake. We have moments when we are incredibly self-centered, miss the point completely, or lack sympathy. We all find ourselves in situations where we are more exposed than we want to be. We are all haunted by the video replays in our minds. And we have all been hurt by others who said or did the wrong thing at just the wrong moment. Between the already and the not yet, you'd better be ready to have your heart exposed again and again by words you wish you hadn't said and actions you wish you hadn't taken. As he journeys towards the cross, the heart of Jesus is exposed too, but it's not an awkward and embarrassing exposure. It's a thing of unparalleled beauty. Again and again, between his manger birth and his rough-hewn cross, you see the tenderness, the humility, the sympathy, the patience, the love, the faithfulness, the grace, and the generosity of the heart of Jesus. But as his heart is revealed, ours is too. And the contrast is not only deeply humbling, but it also exposes just how much we need the sacrificial death that this tender one is marching toward. We see clearly the contrast between the human heart and the heart of the Messiah in this dramatic moment recorded for us in Mark 9:2-37. And after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became radiant, intensely white, as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. And Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah." For he did not know what to say, for they were terrified. And a cloud overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." And suddenly, looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them but Jesus only. And as they were coming down the mountain, he charged them to tell no one what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what this rising from the dead might mean. And they asked him, "Why do the scribes say that first Elijah must come?" And he said to them, "Elijah does come first to restore all things. And how is it written of the Son of Man that he should suffer many things and be treated with contempt? But I tell you that Elijah has come, and they did to him whatever they pleased, as it is written of him." And when they came to the disciples, they saw a great crowd around them, and scribes arguing with them. And immediately all the crowd, when they saw him, were greatly amazed, and ran up to him and greeted him. And he asked them, "What are you arguing about with them?" And someone from the crowd answered him, "Teacher, I brought my son to you, for he has a spirit that makes him mute. And whenever it seizes him, it throws him down, and he foams and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast it out, and they were not able." And he answered them, "O faithless generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him to me." And they brought the boy to him. And when the spirit saw him, immediately it convulsed the boy, and he fell on the ground and rolled about, foaming at his mouth. And Jesus asked his father, "How long has this been happening to him?" And he said, "From childhood, and it has often cast him into fire and into water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." And Jesus said to him, "If you can, all things are possible for the one who believes." Immediately the father of the child cried out and said, "I believe, help my unbelief." And when Jesus saw that a crowd came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, "You mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." And after crying out and convulsing him terribly, it came out, and the boy was like a corpse, so that most of them said, "He is dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he had entered into the house, his disciples asked him privately, "Why could we not cast it out?" He said to them, "This kind cannot be driven out by anything but prayer." They went on from there and passed through Galilee, and he did not want anyone to know, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, "The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him. And when he is killed, after 3 days he will rise." But they did not understand the saying, and they were afraid to ask him. And they came to Capernaum. And when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you discussing on the way?" But they kept silent, for on the way they had argued with one another about who was the greatest. And he sat down and called the 12, and he said to them, "If anyone would be first, he must be last of all and servant of all." And he took a child and put him in the midst of them. And taking him in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me, and whoever receives me receives not me, but him who sent me." I have quoted this lengthy passage because it is the context that sets up the contrast between the heart of Jesus and the hearts of his disciples. Peter, James, and John have just experienced the shocking, heart-rattling glory of the transfiguration of Jesus, with Moses on one side and Elijah on the other. Here is a promised Messiah displayed in glory as the complete fulfillment of the law and prophets. Here is the one who alone is able to satisfy the law's demands. Here is the one alone who is able to shoulder the hope of every prophet of old. Here is the hope of humanity. He is the hope that all that sin has destroyed would be made right again. You have to wonder how Peter, James, and John carried this amazing scene in their hearts, a scene that they were commanded not to share with others. After seeing Jesus in great glory, we see him next with great power, as he does what is unthinkable. He raises a boy from the dead. There is no power in the universe greater than resurrection power. There is no feat that you could witness that is greater than taking the hand of a dead person and by that act bringing life back into that dead body. But there is more. The disciples have been confronted not only with the glory of Jesus and the power of Jesus, but also the shocking reality that he was going to die and after being killed would rise again. It is all too much. This one of such glory and power would die. He would somehow rise out of death. You would think that the disciples' hearts would be filled with sadness at his death, and that their minds would be filled with the endless questions about what they had seen and heard. You would expect that what they would be thinking was about Jesus. But here's where the contrast between the heart of Jesus and the heart of the disciples is so great. Jesus, full of power and glory, would not exercise his power to save himself, but he would offer himself as a sacrifice for the sin of others. He knew his glory and he knew his power, but he also knew his calling, and he pursued it with joy. Glorious and powerful, he came not to be served but to serve, to give his life as a ransom for many. But what occupies the minds of the disciples? Awe in the face of his power? Grief at the thought of Jesus' death? Confusion as to his resurrection? No, they were thinking of something very different. As they walked along the road, Jesus noticed a debate among them. And so when they got to the destination, he asked them what they were arguing about. Embarrassed, not one of the disciples would answer the question, but Jesus knew. They were arguing about who was the greatest. They were not meditating on the messianic greatness they had just witnessed, or ruminating over the news of Jesus' impending death. They were thinking about themselves. As the greatest one who ever lived was willingly marching to a criminal's death, those journeying with him were questing to be great. I wish I could say that I can't relate, but I can. I sadly share this heart, and so do you. I like to be the center of attention. I like to have the strongest argument. I like to be in control. As long as sin still lives in me, I will still have moments when I want to be great, and when I do, I demonstrate how much I need the grace of this glorious and powerful one, who did not save himself, but willingly died to save people like me from myself. On the road to the cross, not only the heart of Jesus is exposed, but ours is too. And there's grace for everything that gets exposed.